Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of Hashing It Out with Javi. This is episode 9. Today I have an awesome guest, somebody I've known since I was in junior high. His name is Victor Vega. I knew him when we were younger as Little Sober. What's up, Victor?
What's up?
What's going on, man?
Good. Going good.
Good
Happy
stuff,
to be
man.
here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you, man. So I'm going to just kind of talk a little bit about our history and kind of how we know each other and kind of where that, where we come from, I guess. So born and raised in Santa Barbara.
Yep.
We both grew up on the east side of Santa Barbara.
Yep.
I remember being young and, what I would call cholo adjacent. Like I knew all the homies and they were cool with me or whatever else. And, throughout my entire life to this day, I was definitely not a cholo, but there was some cholos in my life and, you're one of them. So, and I remember when I was young looking up to your big brother, right?
Yeah.
He was the homie sober, right?
Yeah.
You called him sober. And to me, you were a little sober.
Yeah. Always.
Always.
It's still like that. It's still like that.
Do they still call you that?
When some people don't know my real name.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of people don't. And then now that I have the beard and they're just like, oh, a little sober. I'm like, yeah.
That's fucking funny, man. That's hilarious. Yeah, man. So I wanted to have you on because it's important to me to kind of spread awareness about alcoholism, being addicted to any kind of substance, really. And it's just a really important thing, man. At the end of the day, it's really important to me because it's affected me personally. Yeah. So I wanted to have you on, and we've been talking about doing it, and we finally got together.
Yeah.
We were supposed to get together like a couple weeks ago, but we didn't because I was exposed to the Rona.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to have you here, though. And I just want to kind of give the audience kind of a background on your lifestyle. Growing up as kids, we met in junior high.
Yeah, 7th grade.
Yeah, 7th grade, right?
Yeah, Santa Barbara Junior High.
What's up? But after high school, you kind of got lost, right?
Even before high school. I think I never went to high school. So I grew up in Santa Barbara. Most of my life, my mom was a single parent, right? I was first generation. She came from Mexico. From my family came over from Jalisco, maybe in the late 70s.
Okay.
Right. So my mom.
Same here, man.
Yeah. Jalisco.
Yeah. Jalisco, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Tototlan, Guadalajara.
Ours is Jocotepe.
Good shit.
I've never been there though.
That's why you're so white complected, bro.
Yeah. And my daughter has red hair.
So there you go. That's where it comes from. Yeah.
Yeah. Growing up there, growing up in Santa Barbara, born there, raised there. Most of my years on the east side. As far as I can remember, a little bit of time on the other side of town. And so just, I guess, I wouldn't always say that I was always a little troublemaker when I was a kid. Got into the regular fights at elementary school and things like that. Right. Dad wasn't around. My stepdad was around for a couple of years, which was good. There was like some stability in my life during those years. It's my sister's dad. If I could look back at my life and really look back and see who was a positive role model, male role model in my life, it would be him for those couple of years. Yeah. Right? He never hit us, never yelled at us, never cussed at us. He's actually the one that got me and my brother into like loving sports, right? Because I love sports.
He was a good man.
Yeah, good man. Make sure my sister had everything. She was always he would take me to baseball games and I could always go to his house, right? But it wasn't my dad, right?
Right.
My dad was taking care of another woman's family, right? And her kids, right? So, yeah.
Generational trauma, man.
Yeah, just lack of male guidance, right? Yeah. So, elementary school was good, cool. Mom worked all the time, right? Yeah. So we had a lot of free time, just going to school. And then, I don't know, I was always kind of attracted, right? Growing up on the east side, you would see like older guys getting out of jail. You would see the low riders and, it was a different kind of style back then, right?
Right,
It was a little bit
yeah,
different, right?
yeah.
Ortega Park had all the murals. There was murals all over town.
Remember the murals?
Yeah,
Ortega Park had like, it's like a Chicano like mural, right? Remember that?
It was nice. All kinds of them.
There was a little poop floating in the pool too at the same time, but
That pool is dangerous.
that pool is dangerous, bro. I grew up like 2 blocks from there, man.
Yeah,
You know?
the pool is kind of like, but yeah, it was a different time, and I don't know. I just I don't know. I spent a lot of time in my abuelito's house, right? My grandma, my grandfather, and they were always loving, caring. It was always like a safe place for me. They're like really old school. My grandma was really old school. She wouldn't let us use forks or spoons to eat our food. Everything was with tortilla.
Tortilla.
Abuelita, yeah.
That's cool, man.
So, like, I mean, I was brought up, the kind of, you respect your elders, no matter who it was, and like, that's what it was, right? You're always respectful with your family, and just, I don't know, I had some good, how would you say it? I had good mannerisms, I was taught good things.
You were taught good morals and ethics from your family.
From family, right?
We didn't have much, but we had morals and ethics from our families. We were taught that thing.
We had to respect our elders, right?
Yeah.
Which was cool, and something that's still in me to this day. And my daughter is the same way. She's very respectful to her elders, right?
Because you gave her that, probably.
Yeah,
you're teaching her that, right?
I'm teaching her. She's had other families teach her. With me, sometimes it's a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
Because she's my daughter. But but I would say there was something that lacked when I was growing up, right? My mom worked. We always had food to eat. The house was always clean. But there was never really like motivation, right? Because as a kid, I was a gate student. I was always good in school. But there was really nobody there to push me, right? And I'm a kid, like, okay, kids are supposed to have some type of guidance, some type of motivation, and I lacked that at home, right? I didn't understand then, right? But now, as a parent, I'm like maybe my mom didn't really have those skills, right, to help me with my homework.
Right.
She was, she didn't have the skills to kind of like, how was your day? How's everything going? What do you need? What's going on? Right? It was almost like her state of, and she was very loving and was always there for me. But I don't know if she was, she had the capabilities to be able to like have that emotional support and mental support for me to like guide me. Right?
She wasn't given the tools to how to raise a child, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of our lives, man.
Yeah. Old school kind of, Mexican cultural ways,
Bote de la faja y la chancla, right?
Yeah, those things were always ready, right?
Yeah, they were always ready, bro.
I got it a few times. I would say things in my life started changing after I finished 6th grade. I started going into summer school, and then some of my family members were already involved in gangs, and I looked up to them, the 2 male role models. Right. And I wanted to be like them. And I started hanging around with like all the homies in the summer 6th grade. And my brother wasn't around. So they were like, oh, we'll take care of you. Come kick it with us. Right. And I was only 11 years old. And it's crazy because I look at 11-year-old kids now and they're like little kids. Right. And
that's about the time we met, by the way.
Yeah.
It was around that time, right?
Was it summer school? What?
Well, I mean, I figure if you're like 7th, 8th grade, it's probably 11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
About that time. We were all misguided children, man.
Yeah, it was just something. I was reaching out for something, right? I wasn't getting it at home, right? My grandparents were super loving, but they just, it was a different, grandparent love is way different, right?
Yeah,
it's not like, oh, are you, it was just way different for me, and so I reached out to that, and it was like, this was early 90s. And so, just hanging around with the homies, right? And we were already like drinking and smoking and stuff like that, right? Yeah. And they accepted me for who I was, right? And I was part of something. I've always wanted to be part of something, right. And I wasn't happy with being Victor, but then I got this nickname, and I belong to something. So now I belong to something, right? I was part of something, and like it made me feel good, and like these kids that were the older homies at that time were in my generation were like my brother and a couple other people, and they were like 14, 15, 16.
I remember those guys.
Yeah,
Those are my other homies.
But that they, when you're a kid and you're looking for, like, for me, I'm a kid and a young boy, and I'm looking for like guidance and love. Like, they're older than me, and I respect them, and I looked up to them, and we always made sure that we were all right. We always had somewhere to sleep. We always had we could go to all the different houses, and we always had somewhere to eat. A lot of our parents were working. Most of the dads weren't around from the kids that I grew up with. Right.
And that's an important thing I talk about often, is that the fact that fathers, missing in the household is such a critical thing. Like, we know by statistically that we can look up that most households, if there's a single mom and a son who doesn't have a father or a male figure in his life, there's a big chance that kid could have issues. Not all the time today, because I think there's more support today than there was back then when we grew up. But it is an issue, man. It is an issue. Raising men is an important thing, man. Well,
it is, and especially for a young boy, right? I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I'm not a woman. I've never been a young teenage girl, so there's some things that I can't provide for her. Like, I could provide everything, right? I could provide like emotional support, I'm financially stable and everything she needs, but there's like some emotional needs that I can't fill in the gaps, right? Because I don't understand what she's going through, and my mom wasn't able to do that for me, right? I had some uncles that helped, but they had their own kids. Right. I had one uncle that my mom's younger brother that he was there. He tried to help us, right? He lived in San Diego, and he would take us and he would take us over there, and it was cool. And I just like, it was a different kind of love, right? Because it was a male love, right? And for a young man, it's different, right? And I always yearned the love for my dad, right? But he didn't reciprocate that, he didn't want that. So, I got to see him a few times, and like, I really internally, I really strive to like, I want to be like close to him. That's my dad, right? But I didn't feel that back, right? And so I started getting involved with gangs and drinking and smoking weed when I was 11 years old, right? And so that's what I liked, and my mom didn't know what to do. Right. She could whoop on me. She could yell at me. She could tell me this and that. But my mindset was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to do. I like doing it. I like being out on the streets. I like just, I don't know.
Naturally, you were attracted to that because that's part of being human, man. Young men, I keep saying that to people, is that young men, we're tribalistic, we need to have part of a group that matters to us. And that's that group, man. In junior high, man, I'll tell you right now, I remember being, I think it was 7th grade, because I remember, because Chente, remember Chente? So they were a year older than us, right? I remember being at the Rock. Remember the Rock in junior high? Okay, we go to the Rock. All the cholos would go to the Rock, right? I remember hanging out at the Rock, drinking and smoking weed at like 11 and 12 years old, man. That was during PE and lunchtime.
It was normal.
It was normal. Yeah. That was what you did when you were that. So yeah, that was our tribe, man. That was a thing. And while I didn't dive too deep into it like you did, like that was, I remember hanging out being like, oh man, give me that drink, or pass that joint here. And it's like, literally 11, 12 years old. The Rock, you remember the Rock, right? Somewhere junior high?
The one right there by the
by the gate, right there.
Exit, right?
Yeah, by the exit. Yeah. That's where all the cholos hung out during PE and lunch.
I remember that. That was like
brought up some old shit on.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. We always that fence was always locked.
Yeah, it was always locked. We would jump it anyhow.
Yeah, but that's true. Like right. I like that. So I looked to other kids, right, and they were like in the same situations. I looked to those kids for guidance. So we kind of guided each other, but we didn't make the best choices, right? We try to just help each other and be there for each other. And, we did get in trouble. We got into a lot of trouble and did a lot of stuff, right? But we didn't really, it was different. There was no social media and there was nothing going on. So it was just like between us and the stuff that we did. And my mom just didn't know what to do, and she sent me, I went, the year of 7th grade, I was 12 years old, and me and another homie left like school during the day and went to the homie's house on Voluntario when it goes down.
Yeah.
And they were doing tattoos. And we were 12 years old. And we left school and got my first tattoo at the age of
Tres
12.
puntos like
yeah,
Spider.
They're
Right?
gone now, but I lasered them off. But I got my first tattoo and
Was it 3 points?
3 points. And then I got a one right here.
Tres
ES,
puntos.
right
Oh, you got the east side
yeah.
on your eye? Yeah, hell yeah, see?
But yeah, and I was just, that's what it was, right? And my, man, I feel bad because she couldn't talk to me. And I think it was to the point where, like, emotionally, I just wanted, like you said, I wanted to be part of something, right? And I found something that accepted me. I didn't have to be perfect, right? They had their own, we had our own rules,
Yep.
that we, you know, but we always had each other's back. And my mom was, she didn't know, she's like, she begged me, like, please, can you try going to another school? And I was like, yeah. And so I went to Notre Dame for like 2 months. I felt,
That's a Catholic school, by the way, Santa Barbara. And all the girls at Notre Dame, by the way, they were all pregnant by the time they were 12. I'm not even kidding. Hey, stop me when I lie. Stop me when I lie. They were cochinadas in Notre Dame, bro. My mom put my little sister in Notre Dame when she was like young. I said, get her out of there immediately. I remember telling her that Catholic school is poisonous, bro.
it was, I mean, it was, I felt like I stood out there when I was there. Right?
Oh, of course you did. Of course you did.
None of the guys would really talk to me. Maybe one guy. All the girls would talk to me. They were cool. So I would just chill with the girls.
Of course, because I want to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Like, who's this cholo? I want to get pregnant by him right away.
But I told my mom, I was like, look, I don't want to be there no more. And then so I went back to the junior high, and then I got in trouble, got kicked out of there. And my mom was like, look, and this was like important time, right? Because I got kicked out of the junior high, and then my mom sent me to stay with my dad, and he was in San Jose at the time. And by that time he had separated from the wife and the kids he was taking care of. And so I was with my dad for like a month, and like I was 12 years old, and he was having me work for his business, doing invoices and papers and things like that. So like he was already teaching me, right? And I was trying to get close to him, and it was cool. But then I missed home. I missed the homies. And I think I got past the point where, like, I don't know, my dad doesn't want to accept me. It's cool. But, so I went back home, and I think I just started getting in more trouble. Right. And, you know, we were all hanging out, and a lot of the homies that I kicked away, we were like in the same situation, single parent homes.
Talk about your experience with like getting put in jail.
Jail.
Like YA, juvenile hall.
Well, like I started getting in trouble and going to different schools. And then eventually when I was 13, I just like probation was just tired of me.
Right.
And I wasn't doing anything. And then I kept getting locked up. And then I got sent to Los Pretos Boys Camp.
Los Prietos.
Yeah, Los Pretos, and, like all the homies were up there. And I never finished it, but I was up there and it was just, that's when I was 13, that's kind of when my journey like in and out of jail started. And from 13 to 15, I was put in boys' homes and groups homes, and I would get out, I would run away, I would never stay, and I would just like, I don't know. You know, my mom was always supportive when I made sure I had everything I needed. She would visit me, and she was always there, right? And I think she kind of like, it stressed her out, but I think she kind of accepted like, okay, this is who he is, let me do my best and help him out. And then when I was 15, that's when I went to the youth authority, and I was there for a few years, and then I'd get out for a little bit, and then 19.
You were there for 3 years?
I was in for a couple years, and then I got out, went in for another year and so, and then I came home, and then when I was 19, I was home for like maybe a week and a half.
So YA is nuts though, right?
YA is rowdy. YA is crazy because they're closing the whole system down, which is good.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, because it was like fighting, right?
It's a gladiator school for youngsters, right?
And then the staff, man, they would whoop on the kids like nothing, right? A lot of abuse from the staff. Gosh.
So YA, to me, I heard about YA, a lot about YA, and YA is like, they say that YA, the statistics around like rape and crazy shit is way higher in YA than it was in actual prison.
It was
like fucking nutty out there.
It was crazy because like, I don't know, it was all kids, and all these, you think about hundreds and hundreds and thousands of kids at the time that grew up with like the same way that I did. Some from bigger cities, you know, and some of these kids, they would act like they were adults already, and not because they tried to, just because of what they've been through, right?
Right.
And you put all these kids together, and there's like, oh man, it was just a lot going on, and the staff didn't know how to deal with these kids. So
right.
I remember when I first rolled up to the first receiving, I rolled up to the reception center, and it's messed up, but like the staff would make a list every night,
right,
and they would go to certain cells every night and go ahead and toss up the kids who were in there and just beat them up. They'd make a list every night.
So like for fun.
If you did something wrong, if you turned around, if you said something wrong, right, that was your punishment. They'd go in there and just
COs basically, but there was no kind of like nobody was watching what they were doing. Pretty much, they could do what they want.
No, and then and then a lot of these kids like me had the mentality like, well, don't say nothing. You're not gonna snitch on nobody.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody, right? Even those fools.
Yeah, everybody. It was a different environment. The train of thought that I picked up in there had an effect on me for a long time, right? Because
probably your entire life, bro.
For a long time, because you think like, oh, I gotta fight for this. Somebody looks at me like that. Somebody talks to me like that, right? And it's not a good mentality. And but that was for about.
I didn't even went to YA for 3 years, but I thought it was shorter than that.
I went there and then
in and out for 3 years, pretty much.
Well, I went back later.
Oh yeah,
I went back later as an adult. It was weird because I went to prison. I went to adult prison when I was 19. And
how was that experience, man?
It was calmer than YA.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like I feel like adult prison for most people is a lot, because I hear YA is nuts, man.
It's different, right? Because you got adults and there's more structure and things like that.
There's rules and regulations.
Yeah, and so that was like
you got to program and do burpees and shit.
Yeah, from like 15 to 24. From 15 to 24, I was in those facilities pretty much most of that time, and with a couple spurts of couple months or weeks of freedom. Right?
What yards did you hit? What places?
I think when I go Delano, Wasco, Soledad,
all the good ones.
It's been years, but it was just like, so the thing that what we're talking about was, so you sit in these places, right?
Right.
And you're sitting there and you're with other people that have been in the system, and you're with other people that kind of just live that life. And I really didn't get taught nothing in there, right? Yeah. It was just like, do your time, survive, get out. And so
you weren't rehabbed.
No, there's no, they call it department of rehab, but at the time when I was there was no rehab, right? You work out, get in shape, kill time, think about what I'm going to do when I get out. But I really developed those skills because I'm going into the system at 13. I'm getting out in my latest years, right? I'm not really maturing as an adult. Right. I'm getting older, but I'm not really mentally, emotionally. There's some maturity, but not like it should be, right? Because I'm not working, I'm not going to school, I'm not doing any of that for a long time. And so I guess there's a lot of people in there deal with like inner issues, right? Mental health issues, right? Wow. I've always dealt with anxiety like my whole life, right?
Same here, brother.
Yeah. I don't know how to identify it when I'm a kid or when.
You don't know what it is. I thought I was sick. Yeah. I thought I was physically sick for a long time because the symptoms to me were physical. So I thought that was genuinely ill.
Like, I guess I was always nervous and uptight, right? And so, what I learned at a young age was there's two things I learned. If I drank and got high, I was able to have some courage and act different and be the person that inside I wanted to be and that I saw other people being. And another thing it gave me relief, right?
Right.
So I guess, one of the identities of alcoholism and drug addiction is dependency on something to take away from something, right?
To feel normal.
Yeah. So I would say alcohol was my first thing that made me do that, right? Because it gave me courage and I was always introvert and shy, but if I drank, I could talk, even if it was to girls, right? Because I was scared to death of girls growing up.
If you're a bunch of sling shorty so crazy.
So even there, I was just a shy little kid, right?
Right.
But if I could drink, then I could talk. And if I got drunk enough, I wouldn't care, right? And so I think for me, that's what, I guess for me, that was one of my first dependencies, drinking, right? No. Putting the drinking as quick as possible to get a buzz so I could be like relaxed, right? And I guess that was the original way of me to deal with my anxiety and my low self-esteem, drinking, right? As a kid, right? There was no way that my mom could identify that. Because where with her growing up, did they talk about anxiety or depression?
Oh, our generation has no idea what that is.
Yeah.
I remember when I first got it, I was in my early 20s. Found out I was going to be a dad.
Yeah.
And what's crazy, the story behind that is that, like, this is a fucking crazy story, by the way. Just to kind of put it out there, is so people know what I deal with, is that when I was 22-ish, I found I was going to be a dad or whatever. I'm sitting on a table with friends playing dominoes and stuff, and we're slamming bones or whatever, and some homie goes, "Damn, Javi." So what's up? He goes, "You can be the first one to have a kid." I said, "Fuck." Dude, I know that's crazy. I got to be responsible for this kid for the next 18 years of my life. And my stupid ass cousin, who I can really care less about, he's a piece of shit human. He goes, "You fucking dummy. It's for the rest of your life." And it's like somebody shot like anxiety into my body that I can never get rid of after that point, you know? But it's a subconscious thing. Like, I didn't realize at that moment that became a thing to me. And that was my new kind of life experience going forward, you know? Yeah. So for me, I started having extreme anxiety, man. I thought I was sick for the longest time, bro. I thought I was physically ill because I lost a bunch of weight. Yeah. Back then, I was 190 pounds, solid muscle, like no body fat. I was an animal, but I got really sick, man. And anxiety is a real thing. So on this podcast, we talk about it quite often because I want people to know that if you're not feeling good, if you're depressed, or you're anxious, those things are not always physical. It's a lot of it's mental that makes it physical, you know?
Yeah.
Sorry to cut into, man.
But that's true what you're saying because, you know, one of the like things that I've learned so far in my life, and I learned in my later years, that is, if you talk to somebody about it, it takes like so much weight off, right? Especially dealing with like depression and anxiety for people. Like for me, a lot of times when I get anxiety or even like small bouts of depression, I just want to shut down, right? And sometimes it's hard because I can't fight it, right? And so for me, like personally for me, and my struggle is, I'll go back a little bit, but for now, like my struggle is that so I'll share this before I kind of share my experience. I've been clean off drugs and alcohol for over 6 years now. And so,
amen. Bless you, brother.
And awesome, so
man.
I have this stigma and a little bit of fear about medication. That's just me.
For sure.
Right. Yeah. I know it works for people. And so I've learned that talking with people has been really helpful for me. Right. Whatever it is, being around other people has helped me. Thinking about other people and has helped me getting away from myself. Right. And so I guess I'll backtrack a little bit. So when I was about 24 years old, I got out of prison and I was with my I didn't have a kid at the time, but I was with my daughter's mom at the time. Right. And you know, she got pregnant, and so I left Santa Barbara to go move with her. And I was like, look, I'm never gonna be like my dad, right? I'm gonna be like him. And so I go, I'm going to do it. I showed up to all the doctor's appointments. I was there when she was born. I named her after me, Victoria. Right?
This was not egotistical at all.
and, you know, but the whole time was like, okay, I was doing good. I was working. I was trying to stay away from the homies and just kind of like focus on my daughter. But there were still those issues inside that I never dealt with. Right. And so I found like, for me, I found kind of like, you know, I was already doing heroin at the time, not really full blast. That's what crystal meth. I've done every drug known possible, right, over the years at that time. And when I was 25, that's when my daughter was born, but I was still dealing with all that. And then I found Vicodin, right? And I was taking Vicodin, and it was just making me feel like super normal, like I never felt in my whole life, right?
It's fucking heroin.
Yeah,
it's like it's a fake heroin, bro.
But the government, whoever's making is making money.
Because it makes it okay to fucking take a pill. So.
Yeah. But that's, you know,
that's how they get you, though.
I know. The doctor gives
that's
it to
how
you.
They get you.
Cool, right?
Yeah. That's how they fucking, and now it's fentanyl now and all kinds of other crazy shit.
People are dying off that. Right,
a lot of people. Sorry, man. It couldn't.
No, but that's
it upsets me because I'm tied to this person. You know.
That's what, like, you know, I still didn't have a name for it I still didn't know it was anxiety. I still didn't know I was dealing with depression. I just thought that I thought that I was different. That's what I thought. Right? I was normal because I felt like this.
That's what my family told me. My family told me, "You're crazy. You're acting crazy." I said, "No, I'm fucking sick. There was something wrong with me, you know." But I think me, when it comes to anxiety and stuff, and this is some crazy stuff for everyone to hear, but to me, I never had those problems. But I had been hit in the head so many times. I think mine comes from physical trauma to the brain. And it's scary to me because I've been knocked around the head and knocked out, and a lot of times for a lot of different reasons, from motorcycle riding to fighting to all kinds of stuff to I've had a lot of concussions in my life. And I think, to me, doing research lately, I've been trying to figure out where did that start, because I didn't have that when I was younger. Like, anxiety wasn't a thing when I was younger. Being wild and crazy and those kind of things were for sure a thing, but being anxious and those kind of things didn't start until my early 20s. And I look back going, oh, there's like a few things that happened right before that happened. And I think it's we know now that when there's physical trauma to the brain, that you lose the ability to kind of judge what's exciting or not. I don't know how to.
The front of your brain, right?
Yeah. It's front of
gosh, I can't remember. I don't want to say that. I don't want to act like I'm.
I think for me, that's it. But I could be wrong or not wrong. But for me, anxiety comes and goes in my life, man. It could be here for like 5 days, and it's extreme and it's horrible, and it's like I want to literally scratch my skin off because it's so bad. Like, I don't want to. It's bad, man. And then sometimes it's gone for years. And so I think for me, it feels like it's physically traumatic to me. Like, I know that we have the whole idea of PTSD and those kinds of things, but we also have the idea of brain injuries. And I feel like for me, there might be some of that in there, man. Maybe I may be wrong, or maybe I may be wrong, maybe right. But it's something that I pay attention to, you know what I mean? Cause it comes and goes. There's no right or wrong for it. Like lately I've been feeling really anxious, probably because of all the Corona shit, you know what I mean? And I think most people are, you know, here's something I want to talk to you about. So, like, Corona, the whole idea of, like, not the idea, but the social kind of realm of coronavirus and stuff happening is stressing a lot of people out, right? And what was crazy to me, like absolutely insane to me, is the fact that we would shut down AA meetings but leave liquor stores open. You know what I mean? Like, there's people out there really trying to be sober, you know what I mean? And that's a real important thing. Like, how do you think that affected the community of people that are trying to be sober? That's got to hurt, right?
So for me, luckily I have over some time in recovery, and I have a lot of friends in recovery. Right. So I know, and I have some tools, so I'm able to reach out, right? I'm able to identify my own feelings, my own triggers, my own emotions, right? So I'm good. Like, I've been blessed with that. But for people that are struggling and that are home alone, right? They have nothing but their a big trigger for a lot of people is boredom, right? And so if you're home alone, and you're boredom, and you get obsessed with the fact that, I want to get high, or I want to have a drink, and then you get stuck on that fact, then how the hell do you get out of it if you don't know where to go, you don't know who to reach out to, right? If all these doors are closed, then where are your doors to walk in, right? If you don't know anybody in recovery, then who the hell do you call? You
can't hang out with anybody in recovery, right? Like, that's part of it, right?
I mean, you can hang out. I mean, that's a big part, right? Is finding your fellowship, the people that you can call at any time that understand the exact path, right? You know, me and you could relate to being fathers, right?
Oh yeah.
Somebody else might not know that and might try to tell you what to do, right? I can't go to.
That's true.
If you could suggest something to me, but if I'm trying, like, I guess one of my deals, right? He always he thinks that I just manned up and got clean and sober, right? He's like, get that, just amarrates tus huevos, and right? And that's what he thinks, because he's old school,
right?
And I just, like, I don't say nothing, but in my head I'm like, hell no, it was more than that, right? It was a lot of work, and there were steps that I had to follow, and a lot of people don't a lot of rehabs closed down for a little bit. A lot of them luckily are being opened again. I work as an adolescent drug and alcohol counselor, so I work with kids, but I can't work with them in person right now, right? So everything is through Zoom, right? And so
how's that working out?
It's cool. It's tough sometimes because, like I said, these kids are in school all day on Zoom, and they don't always want to see another face on Zoom for another hour, right?
Like, no, that's the ones tell me I can't pop a fucking Xanax or drink a Bud Light. Come on, you know what I mean?
So it's just hard because these kids are young, and so I have to adjust to them. And how can I help these kids, right? What can I talk about? What can I do to be like not be another stressor in their life, and be like, okay, here's another person, another adult that's gonna talk to me and tell me what I need to do, right? And so, but yeah, it is a struggle for people because I've heard a lot of stories where people that have had years in recovery also that have gone back to, using or drinking, and it's been tough on them, right? Because there's like, it's already like resources for mental health have gone, like it's become more, it's become a little bit more mainstream and recovery, right? It's not like, it's not as
taboo.
Yeah, it's not as shameful, right, as it was, right?
We know that. Let's talk about it, though. So, drugs and alcohol affect everybody from all mindscapes of life. Whether you're the most, all you guys got to do is Google some shit about the most important people you care about, and most of them have had issues. Demi Lovato, for instance, right? She's one of the hottest, baddest, and she's a Mexicana, by the way, right? One of the hottest, baddest chicks in Hollywood. She overdosed twice. You know what I mean? So like the fact that like we don't talk about recovery and drug addiction and those kinds of things like as an open conversation is silly. It's kind of the same way Latinos don't talk about financial awareness. Like both these things are very important to us, and we should keep in mind that it's okay if you're struggling, and it's okay to reach out. It's really actually important that you reach out and not be ashamed of the problem you're having. You know what I mean? Yeah,
and it's hard too because it's hard to talk about it, right? For some people. For me, I've learned for myself personally that if I could talk about it, I could give somebody else like some type of hope, right? And I could be a outlet or a resource for people, right? Sure. And so, because I've gotten to the point where, I was in my early 30s where I was just like strung out on heroin bad. Right. And just stuck. And,
it's an ugly drug, man.
Yeah. It just
destroyed lives in my family, man.
Yeah. It's hard because it was, for me, that was like the ultimate thing, right? I found heroin, and then it just made me so normal, but then it just overtook me and just took away from my life. And I didn't care about my daughter. I didn't care about anything. Right. Going back out of jail, like for me, I would say my low was, I was living like from garage to garage. I've slept on the streets and parks, and like the addiction got really strong. I didn't know what to do, right? And so for me, I just pretty much, I ran out of options, right? When I was 34 years old, I ran out of options, and I was in jail, and they were going to let me go home. And I was like, hell no, I don't want to go home, right? I don't have a home. I was going to go back and do the same thing, and I knew it. and my bottom was right there, and I went to a rehab center in Santa Monica, and it was free. It was a free. The Salvation Army had a rehab, and still has a rehab in Santa Monica, and it's free. And luckily, I was able to go there. And
I think I saw a lot of posts when you were there.
Yeah,
with a lot of people. Like, and I was like, oh, he's doing good, because I saw a lot of posts from people from LA, just random people, man. Yeah, and one of our friends too. I won't say his name, but one of our friends was there too, and I was like, holy shit, man, he's doing good. Like, this is a good thing, like.
Well, it's a good place because it's free, right? And it's 6 months, and they
care and they feed you.
And the thing that was different about this place was it was very spiritual, but also you had to work while you were there. Right.
They wouldn't let you be a sim.
No, you had to do that, and then you had to go groups, and then they encouraged you to go to meetings. So you were like, I was entrenched in it, and it's crazy because, the addiction is crazy because the addiction isn't like, for me, my addiction, my disease of addiction isn't, and a lot of people don't like to call it disease. I call it disease because I know what it does, right?
Well, it gets in your brain, man. Yeah.
And so you think about it, I was in jail when my mom passed away. I had lost custody of my daughter. I was living on the streets. I had nothing going on, right?
Now you have custody of your daughter?
She's living with me full time.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Let's give him a praise for that, man. This man went from addiction to all kinds of crazy stuff to having custody of his daughter.
Yeah. And so
she's living with him full time.
yeah.
I want to put that out there because a lot of people love to say that people don't change, man. And that's one thing that really bothers me because when I was younger, and this is an old man mentality, by the way. When I was younger, people used to always say people don't change, and I believe that. I was like, people don't change. People are pieces of shit. But I myself have seen me change from where I was 20 years ago to where I am today. And I was, if I could talk to myself 20 years ago, I would tell myself, stop being the piece of shit and be a better man. So people do change, man. And I applaud you and recognize you for that. And thank you for that. And society's better because of that, man. That's real walkie-talkie, man.
It wasn't easy.
Of course not. It never is.
Yeah.
Never is.
But, the thing is, man, it's, a lot of people that I know that dealt with addiction and been in the system most of their life is like they want to do good. And a lot of them want to do good and they have the intentions, but they just don't know how to do it, right?
Right.
For me, I had to just start listening to other people, right?
Right.
And taking advice and guidance from other people that I've seen like live a life that's the life that I want to live, right? I already knew how to go to jail. I already knew how to live on the street. I already knew how to be a drug addict. I already knew how to be homie. I already knew how to do that, but I didn't want to do that anymore. And when I sat in the rehab, I was like, I just sat there one day and I realized like I didn't know who I was, how unhappy I was with myself. I was lost because it started at 11 and here I am 34 years old.
Right.
And I still felt like that little kid at times, And so
23 years later, man.
Yeah. And it's just like, it took a lot of work for me. I had to understand, for everybody's different. Everybody says, why don't you do this? Why don't you just stop? And some people can just stop, right? Some people can do this. But for me, that wasn't that wasn't a reality, The reality for me was I didn't know how to do anything, right? I was still a little kid.
Right.
And so I had to rewire my thinking. How to rewire the way I thought. It was mental, spiritual, emotional, everything, right?
Right.
And so it was, it took a lot of work, right?
It's never easy, man.
No.
Everybody wants an easy handout for everything. And when it comes even to sobriety, probably sobriety might be the most hardest thing you can do in your life, to be honest, because you can get off the couch and stop being fat, right? That's probably not as hard as people think it is. It is hard and a lot of work. Yeah. But so when it comes to addictions, it's a brain thing. There's a chemical change in your brain that makes you, without understanding that that's what you want to get. Like you can sit on the couch today if you're an addict and be like, oh, I'm not gonna fucking shoot heroin today. It's cool. But like 5 hours later, you're like, oh well. You don't even know it, but your brain just goes, oh, I want to go do this again. And it's because your brain is rewired for that thing. You know what I mean? It's like we don't treat addiction, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like we don't treat addiction like it's a mental health thing, and it should be a mental health thing.
It's labeled as a disease, right? And so,
which is probably better than mental health, to be honest, because at least if it's a disease, then people have an option to treat it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. The thing is most people that deal with addiction have some type of mental health issue in their life.
Really? Right? I figured that for sure. Yeah.
It's just like, okay, it's a lot of it has been like self-medicating. Like I told you, like with the alcohol and
100%.
Right. And so,
which not to cut you off, but during these times today, I feel like a lot of people are self-medicating. I know me personally, I've drank more than I thought I would ever drink in my. I'm not fucking sitting here drinking when I get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. But I drink more than normal during the Corona kind of episode. That's what's going on. And I think a lot of people are, man. If I like look at my IG stories, like, there's a ton of people out there just getting hammered all the time. Yeah. And I'm like, damn, but I understand it's a stressful time. You know what I mean? So this is also the most important part why I want you to have this podcast is because like. There is a real thing going out there right now that you guys have to really pay attention to, and that's the people that are at home that are feeling anxious and depressed and those kinds of things that are just at home that don't know what to do. They're self-medicating, man, and self-medicating, whether it's alcohol or whatever else. I mean, to me, weed's not the worst one by any means. To me, weed, I'm fucking totally cool with. the last time somebody robbed a liquor store over weed was never, or you know what I mean, or you know what I mean, like weed is totally cool to me, but I don't know. I mean, you tell me. I kind of want to get your opinion on that. Like, how do you feel about marijuana?
It all depends, right? For me, myself, I have to be abstinent from everything.
100%.
Just for me, right? Just because I know who I am. I've seen people be on hard drugs, crystal meth and heroin, and then use weed as a coping mechanism, and it helps them.
Right.
Or some people go to light drinking. Right.
Right.
I'm not no one to tell anybody what they need to do. Right. I work with kids, so it's different. Right. Because weed has a different effect on kids. Right. Because their
thank
brains
God
are,
you brought this up.
Their
bro.
brains are still developing.
Thank God.
Right? And if these kids start smoking weed at a young age,
yes,
they have all kinds of stuff going on, and they're liable to deal with anxiety and depression as they get older, you know. But that's for kids.
Bro, you're a smart man, dude. So that is an extremely important topic that people need to understand. All these parents that I see on the daily smoking weed with their kids and all that shit, which you have to understand. This is, I've actually had this conversation with my child. Yeah. I said, look, you in your lifetime will see people smoking weed in front of you. It's not a big deal. Whatever. However, let me explain something to you. This is my son, man, who I love more than anything, right? Been raising him alone for almost 8 years. If you were to ask me, Dad, what do you think if I should smoke weed or not? What I told my son is that I need you to understand something, that weed affects the brain differently for different age groups. Yeah. So when you're a kid, your brain between the ages of like, don't kill me here, it's fucking bro science, but like, I think it's like between the ages of like when they're super young until like 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 even, like their brains aren't ready to accept the truths that weed gives them. So it's an entirely different experience. So like you and I smoked weed as young kids. Yeah. It probably really affected us in a different way.
We were smoking that dirt.
Yeah.
Full of seed weed.
It was not the weed that we have today. But these kids today, if they're like 15 years old, 16 years old, and they're smoking weed, it totally 100% will affect them differently. Yeah. And it affects, because the reality is, like you said, the brain is not fully formed yet. Yeah. Like for young men, I think it's not fully formed until their early 20s, I think.
24.
24.
I think it's when there's like a connection between the front of the brain and the back of the
frontal lobe. Yeah. So that's what I told my kid. I'm like, dude, here's the deal. I told my son, if you want to smoke weed, smoke it all you want, but just wait until you're a little bit older. Yeah. Don't do it now, because your brain's not fully formed. Yeah. It doesn't understand what this thing is giving it. You know what I mean? And so that's why, we're young. We had a lot of young homies who were like super duper like stoner hippie types. Oh yeah, bro. Because the weed could totally, I believe, change a mentality or a mindscape, just because they're easily influenced. You know what I mean? So I'm glad you brought that up, man. That's a really important topic, man.
I have a battle with that with my daughter. She's a teenager, right? And I don't want to be the parent that says, well, it's just weed, nothing else. Cool. Like, no. Right. If she's gonna fight and put in the effort to sneak away and get high, then hey, that's what teenagers do, right?
Right.
But I'm not gonna be the one that says, no, it's cool, right? Yeah. So
set boundaries.
Yeah, there is big time boundaries.
And all parents, all you fucking parents who think your kids are your fucking friends, stop acting like it. Set some boundaries, man. I'm tired of that shit too. Yeah. I'm tired of seeing all, and I hate to say it, but there's a lot of single moms out there who are like partying with their kids and shit, and doing this crazy shit with their kids, and talking crazy in front of their kids. Like, let me erase that. Just people in general. Yeah. If you're acting like that with your kids, stop it. Yeah. Your kids need parents. They don't need fucking friends. And I'm so tired of seeing that. Yeah. And that's an extremely important thing. Like you and I talked about earlier, getting an ass whooping mattered, right? Like parents, stop being friends with your kids. Be parents first. You could be their friends, but you have to be a fucking parent first.
And it's
100%.
That's probably been one of my biggest battles, is just with my daughter, right? But things have changed. We've gone through our bumpy roads, but
sure,
just letting her know, like, look, I love you. I tell her I love you, right? And I'm your dad. Your friends will be there. Your friends will be cool. Your friends will be there for this and that, right? But I'm going to be there for you no matter what it is. I'm going to feed you every day. I'm going to make sure you have somewhere to sleep. I'm going to make sure that you have everything taken care of. I'm going to make sure when something happens. That's the difference between a parent and a friend. A friend isn't always there. A friend isn't obligated to be there 24/7.
100%.
As a parent, I'm obligated.
Hey, can you say that again?
a friend isn't going to be there 24/7.
Say it again, brother.
But and I tell her that. And sometimes she doesn't, I sit there and I talk to her, but then I encourage her and I tell her positive things, right? And I tell her like, you know what, thank you for your effort. Thank you for trying. Thank you for understanding, right? Not, and just, the relationship has changed with me and her, and she's a beautiful young lady, and she's smart. She knows what she wants.
She got a smart daddy, bro.
I don't have to tell her to clean her room. She does.
Well, you taught her to,
She does some things. Her grandma on her mom's side has spent a lot of time with her. When I was out doing my thing, her grandma was always there for her. Her grandma's always been supportive of her, and her grandma. They have their own relationship, which is different from ours, right?
Right.
And I get it. That's her grandma, right? Right. And, but as far as being a parent, I got to deal with some stuff that doesn't feel good, because I'm trying to do the right thing, and a lot of times doing the right thing is getting resistance, until finally she understands, like, okay, now I get it, right? And it's draining sometimes.
It's called being patient, man. And that shit's hard. It's crazy. I don't have a daughter, I have a son, so it's easier,
Yeah.
So I always talk about how the struggle is for women who have single women, mothers who have sons,
Yeah.
Now we're talking about a single man who has a daughter.
Yeah. It's different. I think one of the things I can say that I've done good as a dad is I've reached out to a lot of moms. I've gone to parenting classes voluntarily just to learn how to be a better parent, get guidance from people. I ask a lot of advice, right? I don't ever want to think like, oh, I know I'm gonna do it my way. I've allowed myself to be open to other people's thoughts and opinions, or their experience mostly, right?
Right.
Because that's the most. I'm in recovery from drugs and alcohol. I spent a lot of this time in jail, and I've gone through all this stuff. But today, the most important thing in my life is to be a good father, right?
Everyone, can we give this man a round of applause? Hey, a single full-time dad to a daughter. Jesus Christ, man. I genuinely and absolutely am humbled and excited and stoked to see that there's men like you in this world, man. Because we need more of those, you know what I mean? And we have a lot of them, though. Yeah. Unfortunately, in today's times, we have a lot of men who are doing both jobs, you know what I mean?
And you know what? Like, I grew up like that. A lot of the guys that we know, we grew up like that, right? And so... now that I reflect, I'm like, God damn, my mom had it hard, right? Because she had to deal with me and my brother, right?
Bro. I feel you. That's why women get on my case all the time, because I post funny shit on my Instagram. I'm like, no, you have no idea. I totally champion and love and put the women that really matter on a pedestal. Like, those women are everything to me. I was raised by the best, baddest, most amazing women in this world. 100%, man. And you and I now know it, right? And now single fathers, we know that shit, man.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, so in some places that I've been to, right, in where they look down on women, right? I'm like, that doesn't make sense, because for me, moms have like a strength, right? That my mom had all the strength, and I look back,
a primal natural strength.
Yeah. I don't know if I guess starting with having the kids first, right?
For sure. Well, they gotta care them for 9 months. Man. That's what's crazy to me, man. Yeah, it's a primal natural strength.
Yeah, and so, just I don't know. It's just being a parent's the biggest challenge in my life, right? But still, I still deal with those. So those, as the parent too, I could sometimes forget to take care of myself, right?
Right.
I have to make sure that I take care of myself mentally and my recovery still, right? I talk to my daughter about my recovery and what I need to do, and she understands it. She doesn't get it, but she understands. I'm like, I say, hey, Victoria, I have to do a meeting right now, or I have to do this. And she gets it, right? And she understands that I have friends that I need to talk to, right? And so she's like, I think one of the sweetest things she ever did was, we were at Subway one time, and she gave me a bracelet. I go, what's this for? Oh, this is, it's Drug Awareness Month, and you don't do drugs, so I'm giving you this bracelet.
How cute is that, man? Come on, y'all gonna make me cry over here and shit. That's cute, you know what I mean? But she understands your struggle.
She gets it.
She knows that daddy's doing his best, and these kids and these teenagers, they understand that, man. And we're often parents male, female,
Yeah.
no matter who you are, often we're really hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
But you just really need to understand that as long as you set a good example, you build a foundation for your kids, that's the best you can do, man. They're going to make their own decisions, just like you and I, right? We came from good families, man. Our parents, even though they were struggling, built foundations for us. We chose our own path, man. We can't, you know what I mean? There's a level of what did I do in my life versus what did my mom teach me to do. So for me personally, my mom was an amazing mom.
Yeah.
My dad was an alcoholic, piece of crap, abusive man.
Yeah.
But my stepdad came in my life. Like we talked about step-parents earlier.
Yeah.
It was amazing, you know what I mean? And I continued to do dumb shit my entire life.
Yeah.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The first time I got arrested, I was 12 years old, man. You know, I got arrested with Jacob. You know Jacob. So and Vincent Hernandez and throw some names out there. Both those. But you know, those the decisions I was making because I came from a home that was, even though I had a stepdad, was still broken from traumas and other things. You know what I mean? And it's just really important to understand that, like, we have what I would call generational traumas. You know, so my entire goal, my entire life, when I became a parent, I remember thinking to myself, this might be where all my anxiety comes from. Was like, I want to stop that trauma in this generation. That was the most important thing to me. I wanted to stop passing on what my dad passed on to me, to the next generation. I wasn't afforded those choices, unfortunately, because my baby's mama. But I did that test. I passed that test, you know, with flying colors. And so I just wish more people in this world would understand that we all deal with really trying things. We all suffer. It's part of the human condition. But the kids are everything, man. And so even though while you and I can sit here and say we took different paths in life, all that matters is what's next, the kids, right?
Yeah.
That's probably what changed you, right?
It was a big motivating factor.
Right.
I really had to be selfish in a good way and taking care of myself. And just doing whatever it was, 12-step, praying, church, counseling, therapy, whatever it was. Right. And I was thinking about what you're talking was like, okay, I acted out in the way that I did growing up was because it was just a reaction from my environment. Right. And it's what I wanted to do. But as I get older I can't feel bad about that anymore. Right. It's an experience that I went through. And so, doing something about it. Right. When I find having the capacity now, I have the capacity now to do stuff about things. And instead of just being like, why do I have to have a teenage daughter that don't listen to me? Why did I have to spend all that time?
Stop making excuses.
What am I going to do about it? Right.
Guess what you're going to do? You're going to be a fucking dad.
I'm going to do something about it, whatever it is. Right. If I have anxiety, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to sit there and try to, let me go outside, let me take a walk, let me get some fresh air,
do some burpees,
recognize it, right?
It's something, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, it's recognizing and acknowledging, right?
Right. Yeah.
Knowing that I'm a recovering addict and there's things that I have to do in my life so I stay on track. Knowing that I'm a father, so there's things that I have to do and stay on track. Knowing that, okay, I'm feeling depressed today. What am I going to do about it, right? And recognizing it and not just, you know, and I think that's the important thing for me in my life. And what a lot of people, what I suggest they do is if you acknowledge something, recognize it. Doesn't make you a bad person because I have depression, because I'm sad, because I got off my diet or because I'm not exercising right. It doesn't make you a bad person. It
makes you a human, bro.
Yeah.
You're a human.
Yeah. And so
we're all humans, man. You're right, man.
What am I going to do about it? Right.
Yeah. What are you going to do about it? You as a human who has that problem, this is what I always tell people. One of the hardest lessons I learned in my life is the first time I got my heart broken. I tell this story often, you know what I mean? So, you know, and I was like 14, 15. I had the love of my life in my life, you know what I mean? And when she was pulled out of my life, the thing about life that people don't realize when it comes, not life, but relationships, when it comes to relationships, like the first time you're a kid and you fall in love, people are like, oh my God, that's why it's called being heartbroken. Yeah. Because you know what it really is? What it really is a chemical change. It's an addiction. It's an addiction to a person that your brain says, this feels good. This feels warm. This feels accompanying. And so when you fall in love with somebody, really what it is an addiction. You're an addiction to somebody. Yeah. And when they pull that person away from you, or that person pulls himself away from you, you fucking lose it because you don't have your fucking hit of heroin anymore. Yeah. It's like, I don't have this hit of like love and compassion anymore. So that person's gone and they're giving that to somebody else. That really is, addicts. I've talked to a lot of addicts. They don't know this, but that really is what it is. It's just another level of brain chemistry that is given to you that makes you fall in love. That's really what love is, man. And we know it now scientifically. So anyways, I remember the first time someone pulled that away from me. Yeah. And I fucking lost my fucking shit, man. I was like, holy shit, man. But that's my high school sweetheart. I love her. Like, I cannot imagine life without her. I'm going to die. You know what I mean? And when you realize that, like, oh, it's just somebody taking my toy away from me. Yeah. Like, if you have a dog and you're teaching a dog, right, how to sit, what do? You give him a kibble bits, right? Here's a kibble bits. You sit, mijo, sit. You're just training somebody with something. And that's just, it's a shot of chemistry in your brain that makes you fall in love with that person. Yeah. And just know that when you feel down and out, or you're in that space, or that mind space of being hurt or angry or upset, that chemical reaction in your brain will eventually fix itself. Yeah. And I wish more people understood that, because when it comes to teenagers, for instance, right? I have a young son, right? He's young. Yeah, right. He's going to be an adult in April. He'll be 18 in April, right?
April what?
April 25th.
That's my daughter's birthday. That's
really?
Crazy.
What up? We're here for a reason, bro. We're here talking about this for a reason. Yeah. So when those things happen to kids, it's important to let them know that this is just part of the process. Yeah. It's part of the human process. It's part of the biological makeup that we have. And the reason why it's important to let them understand that is we've existed and gone this far in life because of that. It's part of the evolution, man. To be honest, it's human nature. Adapt, right? We adapt, we overcome, but it's also part of human nature. Like we got to here because we fell in love with that pretty girl that was at the campfire 3,000 years ago. You know what I mean? So we had babies, and then we got more babies and more babies and more babies. So like, it's just something that we need to talk about more, because we tend to put off mental health and all these things on the side and be like, oh, it's not whatever. But if you guys could just take a second to look into it and understand what it is, then we can totally help a lot of people out, man. And that's one of the most important things about this podcast that I'm super proud about. And I showed you a audio earlier, and it's amazing to me the amount of people that see this thing or hear this thing and are like, oh man, this fucking helped me out in my life. And that's all that I care about. And you are here right now because of that, as a homie. And it's amazing, man. How in other words, how can we help people? How do we help people?
There's like some simple things that I do when I was thinking about it is, first off, as a, you don't have to be a professional or have skills. Right. All you got to do is like think about a couple people every day. Who can I text? Who can I call? Who can I check in on? Right. Right. Just, I do that a lot. I go through my contacts and be like, oh, let me reach out to this person. Right. It doesn't take much, right? Because you never know. I've been so many times when I reached out to people and they're like, oh my God, they're like, I needed somebody to talk to. I've been like feeling like this way. Right. I personally make myself available. Right. I don't just go blurt out my story to everybody that I meet. Of course. But if I know that I need to like self-disclose about my experience to help somebody, I will. Right. I make myself available, right? Just because I have resources. I work in the social system, and of my experience and the people that I know, I'm always personally willing to make myself available. Right. And the thing is, people sometimes think that they have to answer for somebody. Sometimes people just want to vent and talk. 100%. Right. Yeah. They just want somebody to listen to them.
So just give them an open ear. Right. Yeah.
So they can take some of that weight off their back, whatever it is. Right. Just like, I guess, learning to be compassionate. I guess when you talked about like that adapting that human nature. A lot of times when I'm feeling angry or upset or something, I'm like, okay, this feeling's gonna go away. It's not gonna last for me for the rest of my life.
Forever.
Yeah. I'm, especially with my daughter or with my daughter or just even in life, right? It's just like, I'm gonna get through it, and then once my anger dies down, then I'm gonna think about a better way to handle it, right?
Tough times don't last. Tough times don't last. Tough people do, right?
It's just I mean, I guess this lady hit my car a couple weeks ago and knocked off the frame for my side view mirror, right? And she left a note, and I called her, and I was like, she probably already feels bad. She probably already feels extreme.
She left you a note, bro. That's better than most. You know what I mean? Most of the spice, I was like, I leave you no, bro. I'm out of here.
That happened to the side of my car too. I didn't get no note for that.
I say paisa, I'm a paisa, by the way. So I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Yeah, well, I'm not leaving no note, bro. I'm out of here, you know?
Yeah, I guess compassion for people, right? Understanding. The thing that I've learned, the best way that I've learned to be compassionate towards people is to understand, right? You don't know what a person's going through until you really understand what they're going through. And so I, like with my mom, we talked about my mom. I didn't know what she was going through, and I was always angry at her growing up because, like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Right? And now that I'm older, I'm like, oh God, no wonder she couldn't do that. Right? She did everything else, but maybe she wasn't aware. Maybe she didn't know. Right?
Damn, that hits deep. Bro.
Yeah, she didn't know, and she did what she
real deep,
was,
bro.
Yeah,
real deep.
They do what they're capable of, right?
I mean? Yeah, they do what they're capable and what they know at that moment in their life. You know,
even now, from what I know in my experience, I still fall short on a lot of things, right?
Oh, we always do, man. But we're humans, man. We're always gonna fall short. You know what I mean?
But yeah, for me personally, I think probably one of the things that I'm most proud of is that, I could go back home, I'm in Santa Barbara, especially on the east side or wherever part of town, and people know my story and they know what I've been through.
Right.
And I'm always willing and able to help people, right? I might not give you my full bank account, but I will put you in the direction, and I'll lay out a plan and steps for you, and then, the person has to do the rest, right? And depending on the person and what they are, but I'm always willing to help people, right? Because I've been blessed with the opportunity to have all this back, right?
Yep.
Have a roof over my head every night, being able to eat whenever I need to eat, having a car, having a full-time job, being able to work full-time during the coronavirus season, and having my daughter in my life, having my life back, right? After not having it for most of my life. And so how could I do that? Just pay for what I have, right?
And that's all that matters, brother.
Yeah.
So, we're going to wrap this up. Yeah. I just want to say thank you, man, so much for coming here. I think we absolutely have to do this again.
Yeah.
We should get your daughter on here too. Yeah. We'll talk about it, but man, it's extremely exciting to see people who go through struggles overcome them, because again, when I was younger, I would have been like, oh, people don't change.
Yeah.
And now as I'm an older guy, 100% people change, man. 100%. Yeah. We absolutely evolve and change. Not everybody, but most of us evolve and change into better humans. And I'm happy to have you, man. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
All right, brother.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Love you, man. Peace out.